Why stupid people are more dangerous than you think. Cipolla's law. Have you ever wondered why the world feels like it's constantly teetering on the edge of collapse, not because of evil masterminds or complex conspiracies, but because of acts that seem, at first glance, completely senseless? Why is it that the most destructive forces in society often aren't malicious villains, but ordinary people making decisions that defy logic, common sense, or even basic self-interest? This isn't just frustration talking. It's a real phenomenon, and it was brilliantly captured by one man, economist and historian Carlo M. Cipolla. His laws of human stupidity are more than cynical observations, they're a philosophical warning. A mirror, a red flag waving in front of all of us. Because stupid people, as Cipolla argues, are vastly more dangerous than we think. And the worst part, they're everywhere. Let's start with a simple but uncomfortable truth. Stupidity isn't the absence of intelligence. It's not about IQ or education or how many books you've read. According to Cipolla, stupidity is defined by a very specific kind of behavior, actions that harm both the actor and others without any benefit to anyone. That's it. A stupid person is someone whose actions cause damage to both themselves and those around them. And once you see the world through this lens, a lot starts to make sense.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
Think about it. The person who spreads a lie because it felt true, even though it destroys reputations. The person who votes against their own interests because of a catchy slogan. And the person who sabotages a group project because they didn't get their way. These aren't anomalies. They're symptoms. And once you start to recognize them, you realize that stupidity isn't rare, it's systemic. It's woven into institutions, into political movements, into corporate decisions, and into everyday interactions. And that's what makes it so dangerous. Cipolla's most terrifying insight is that stupid people are far more powerful than we assume, precisely because they're unpredictable. You can negotiate with a criminal. You can anticipate the motives of someone who wants to gain from a situation. But a stupid person, you don't know what they want. You don't know what they're thinking. In fact, they often don't know what they're thinking. They act in ways that defy logic, accountability, and even self-preservation. And yet, they still act. They still vote. They still climb the ranks. They still impact the world. And they leave a trail of destruction in their wake. Now here's where it gets even more unsettling. Cipolla's law also says that the probability of a person being stupid is always greater than you think. Always. No matter how cynical you are, no matter how many bad experiences you've had, you're still underestimating the presence and power of stupidity. Why? Because stupid people don't look stupid. They blend in. They smile. They use big words. They have degrees. Sometimes they're even in charge. And that's why so many people get blindsided. They assume that good intentions or credentials or charisma are signs of intelligence. But they're not. In Cipolla's world, one key truth reigns supreme: never underestimate the stupid. Let's pause and ask something unsettling. Have you ever been the stupid one? Have you ever acted against your own interests and hurt someone else in the process simply because you were emotional, misinformed, or just not thinking? If we're honest, the answer is yes. And that's what makes Cipolla's theory even more compelling. Stupidity isn't always them. it can be us. It can emerge in moments of stress, pride, fear, or ego. It's not a fixed identity. It's a force that moves through people when awareness is lost. And if we're not vigilant, we become participants in the very chaos we think we're observing from a distance. So what do we do with this knowledge? Do we isolate ourselves? Do we stop trusting people? No. The point isn't to become paranoid. The point is to become aware, to develop what I call Stupidity Radar. That means learning to recognize the signs, impulsiveness, lack of accountability, emotional reactivity, and a refusal to learn. It means evaluating people not by how they appear, but by the results of their actions. And most of all, it means looking inward, constantly checking ourselves for blind spots, assumptions, and moments where we're acting on habit instead of reason. Cipolla's brilliance lies in stripping away the illusions. He doesn't try to comfort us with utopian optimism. He tells us the truth, that the world isn't just threatened by evil, or greed, or corruption, but by something far more banal, far more common, and far more insidious: stupidity. And unless we recognize it, challenge it, and learn to navigate around it, we will be its next victims, or worse, its next agents. The silent saboteurs, how stupidity undermines progress without anyone noticing. Stupidity doesn't always announce itself with loud, ridiculous behavior. In fact, its most dangerous form is quiet, unassuming, and tragically normal. It moves through systems, conversations, policies, and decisions like a virus. And the terrifying part, most people don't notice it until it's too late. That's because stupidity often camouflages itself in routines, traditions, and even good intentions. It hides behind bureaucracy, behind slogans, behind friendliness. It's not the loud fool on the street corner screaming nonsense that breaks societies, it's the smiling executive who makes a decision that ruins thousands of lives without even realizing it. It's the manager who ignores the warning signs because they don't want to deal with it. It's the voter who doesn't read, doesn't think, and just wants someone to blame. The reason stupidity is such a silent saboteur is because it doesn't need to be malicious to be catastrophic. A stupid person doesn't know they're causing harm, and they don't care to find out. That's what makes them more dangerous than a criminal. A criminal has a goal. You can predict their behavior. You can build defenses. But a stupid person destroys randomly, without motive, without logic, and often without any awareness that they're doing anything wrong. They're not trying to be evil. They're just not trying at all. And because of that, they slip through the cracks. They get promoted. They get elected. They get followed. And we wonder why everything keeps breaking. Look at history. Entire civilizations have collapsed, not just because of war or corruption, but because of widespread stupidity. Leaders who refused to listen. Masses who followed blindly. Institutions that ignored obvious warnings because they were too arrogant or too lazy to think critically. The Roman Empire didn't fall in a day. It unraveled slowly through 1,000 small stupidities, mismanaged resources, short-sighted policies, and egos overriding evidence. And if we're honest, we're watching the same patterns play out today. Climate denial, economic recklessness, the glorification of ignorance, the celebration of opinions over facts. These aren't just political issues. They are philosophical crises. They are the direct consequences of a society that has failed to take stupidity seriously. Let me ask you a question that might sting, How many bad decisions in your own life were the result of not thinking deeply enough? How many times did you follow the crowd, ignore the signs, or avoid the hard truth because it was easier? We've all done it. And that's why Cipolla's laws aren't just about them. They're about us. Stupidity isn't a fixed label, it's a behavior, a mode, a pattern. And the only way to fight it is not with more intelligence, but with more awareness, more humility, more willingness to ask, am I contributing to the problem right now? The worst part is that stupid people often have power, because power doesn't require insight. It just requires confidence, and stupidity wears confidence like a costume, but it speaks loudly. It doesn't doubt, it asserts without evidence, and people, oddly enough, find that comforting. Why? Because certainty is easier to follow than wisdom. Wisdom is slow. It asks questions, it hesitates, but stupidity acts fast. It offers simple answers to complex problems. And in a world addicted to speed, stupid people rise not because they're right, but because they're loud. And by the time we realize the damage they've done, it's too late. So how do we protect ourselves? First, we must stop confusing intelligence with performance. A degree doesn't mean someone is wise. A title doesn't mean someone is competent. Look at results. Track the pattern of decisions. Does this person leave things better than they found them? Or worse? Do they take responsibility for outcomes, or do they always blame others? The truly dangerous stupid person is the one who never pays the price for their own mistakes because someone else always cleans up after them. Second, we need to normalize critical thinking, not as a luxury, but as a survival skill. We need to teach people and remind ourselves that it's okay to question, to say I don't know, to slow down. Most acts of stupidity happen because someone rushed, assumed, or avoided discomfort. But wisdom lives in the pause, in the doubt, in the willingness to be wrong so that something right can emerge. And finally, we need to stop being polite about stupidity. That doesn't mean being cruel. It means being clear. When someone is making decisions that hurt themselves and others and refuses to reflect, they need to be called out not to shame them, but to protect the world from their unconscious harm. Ignoring stupidity doesn't make it go away. It makes it stronger, because silence is permission. Cipolla wasn't trying to depress us. He was trying to wake us up, to shake us out of our comfort and make us realize that progress isn't guaranteed, civilization isn't permanent, and stupidity, left unchecked, will win, unless we learn to see it, to name it, and to stop trusting people simply because they sound confident. Danger in disguise, why smart-looking people can be the most stupid of all. One of the most disturbing truths about stupidity is that it often wears the mask of intelligence. We tend to imagine stupid people as visibly foolish, easy to spot, easy to ignore. But the real danger isn't in the obvious fool, it's in the well-dressed executive who speaks with authority, the slick influencer who garners millions of followers, the academic who uses complex language to say nothing at all. These are the people who look intelligent, who sound intelligent, but whose actions ultimately drain value from the world. And Cipolla understood this better than most. He warned us, intelligence is not how much you know, it's what you do with what you know. And when someone with access to power, influence, or knowledge uses it in ways that harm both themselves and others, they are not wise. They are stupid in the purest philosophical sense. Think about how many smart people you've seen make catastrophically bad decisions. Think about the financial crises caused by elite bankers who understood economic theory but lacked basic moral judgment. Think about the tech leaders who build tools that addict, isolate, and manipulate billions, all while claiming to connect the world. Think about the politicians with degrees from top universities who push policies that hurt the very people they're supposed to protect. These are not ignorant people. They are not lacking in information. What they lack is wisdom, and wisdom is the soul of true intelligence. The scariest thing about this kind of stupidity is that it's seductive. We want to believe these people know what they're doing. We want to trust the person in the suit, the person behind the podium, the person with the confident smile. But Cipolla's law demands that we ask one brutal question: are they creating harm without benefit? Because if they are, no matter how impressive they seem, they are stupid. And if we follow them, we become complicit in their stupidity. Here's where it gets even darker. Stupid people in high places don't just cause damage, they amplify it. Their decisions ripple outward. A single bad policy can impact millions. A single algorithm can alter human behavior at scale. A single reckless statement can spark violence, fear, or economic collapse. And when these decisions are made by people who are not only unaware of their own limitations, but also resistant to feedback, the outcome is not just bad, it's catastrophic. But why do we keep giving these people power? Why do we keep mistaking performance for intelligence? The answer lies in our psychological need for certainty. We're drawn to people who speak in absolutes, who promise quick fixes, who offer clean answers to messy problems. But true intelligence doesn't rush to conclusions. It wrestles with complexity. It doubts itself. It evolves, and that kind of intelligence is often quiet, humble, and slow. In a world addicted to speed and spectacle, real wisdom doesn't stand a chance unless we learn to recognize it. Let me ask you something personal. Have you ever followed someone because they seemed smart, only to realize later that their judgment was hollow? Have you ever silenced your own instincts because someone else knew more? These moments matter. They teach us that intelligence isn't something we outsource. It's something we cultivate through attention, reflection, and above all, discernment. Because if we can't tell the difference between actual intelligence and the performance of intelligence, we become the enablers of stupidity, not its victims. So what's the antidote? It starts with redefining what we admire. Let's stop worshipping charisma. Let's stop equating verbosity with insight. Let's stop confusing speed with accuracy. Instead, let's admire those who listen more than they speak. Those who change their minds in the presence of new evidence. Those who ask better questions instead of offering easy answers. These people may not dominate headlines, but they are the ones holding civilization together. Cipolla's warning isn't just about avoiding stupid people, it's about not becoming one. Especially when we have influence. Especially when people are listening. Because the most dangerous kind of stupidity is the kind that thinks it's smart. The final law: how to defend yourself and the world against the rise of stupidity. Now that we've seen the full shape of stupidity, how it hides in plain sight, how it damages silently, and how it can even wear the mask of intelligence, we come to the most important question of all. What can we do about it? How do we protect ourselves and our world from the spread of stupidity? Is it even possible? Cipolla's final law is the most empowering, but also the most demanding. It states, a stupid person is more dangerous than a bandit. Why? Because a bandit at least acts with a clear goal they gain while you lose. You can anticipate their actions, defend against them. But a stupid person causes losses for everyone, themselves included, without any gain. You can't reason with them. You can't predict them. And you can't stop them with laws or logic alone. They are an irrational force in a rational world. So the only real defense, Cipolla implies, is awareness. And that awareness begins with you. First, you have to accept that stupidity is not an insult, it's a condition, a behavioral state. It can appear in anyone, at any time, regardless of background, education, or status, even in you, especially in you. So protecting the world from stupidity begins with radical self-awareness. Every time you make a decision, ask, am I adding value or subtracting it? Am I acting with intention, clarity, and awareness of consequences? Or am I reacting out of pride, fear, or ego? This kind of self-questioning is rare, but it's the foundation of wisdom. Because the moment you think you're immune to stupidity is the moment you've already been infected by it. But next, we have to change how we engage with others. When you detect stupidity, consistent, unreflective behavior that harms without reason or benefit, you must respond, not with rage, but with boundaries. But you can't fix a stupid person. That's one of Cipolla's harshest truths. You can sometimes educate ignorance, you can reform selfishness, but you can't cure stupidity. But what you can do is limit its impact. That means creating distance, refusing to reward it, refusing to follow it, and most importantly, refusing to normalize it. This is particularly important in leadership. If you're in a position of influence, you have a responsibility to recognize when stupidity is being rewarded, celebrated, or promoted. And in companies, in politics, in media. The moment you start making excuses for stupid behavior because it's entertaining or popular or convenient, you become part of the problem. One of the most dangerous lies of modern culture is that everyone's opinion is equally valid. No, not all ideas are equal. Not all actions deserve a platform. Some behaviors degrade the collective intelligence of a society, and they must be called out not with cruelty, but with clarity. Let me ask you something that could change your life. Are you surrounding yourself with people who make you smarter or people who make you feel safer in your illusions? This one question can rewire your entire future. Because intelligence isn't just something you have, it's something you protect. And you protect it by curating your environment, by choosing conversations that challenge you, by walking away from people who drag you into the fog. You only get one mind. Guard it like it matters, because it does. Finally, we must cultivate what Cipolla never explicitly said, but always implied, the courage to be wise. Wisdom is not glamorous, it's not loud, it doesn't go viral, but it is the antidote to stupidity. And it starts with small daily choices like pausing before you speak, questioning before you act, and thinking not just about what you want, but about what your actions will cause. This is how civilizations survive. This is how individuals rise above the chaos. Cipolla's laws are not just economic theories. They're philosophical weapons. They remind us that stupidity isn't just annoying, it's existential. If we don't take it seriously, it will take us down. But if we do, if we become vigilant, humble, and fiercely devoted to clarity, we can build something that stupidity cannot destroy. A world grounded in thought, in truth, and in the quiet power of reason. So the next time you see someone acting in a way that makes no sense, that causes harm without purpose, don't just shrug. Don't just laugh. Ask yourself, am I watching stupidity in action? And then ask the harder question, have I ever done the same? Because in the end, the greatest act of intelligence is knowing when not to play the stupid game.